If you are not getting emotional about your business, you are not playing 100%. You are not bringing it all to the table for you, your family, or your team, because it should be emotional.
You work hard in your business. On the Profit by Design podcast, we ask the big question: what has your business done for you lately? Hi, I'm Dr. Sabrina Starling, the business psychologist, the author of How to Hire the Best, and your co-host on the Profit by Design podcast. Weekly, my co-host, Mike Bruno, and I bring you tips, tools, and strategies from our own experiences and from the experiences of our guests, who are entrepreneurial thought leaders and real-life entrepreneurs, all to support you in making intentionally profitable and sustainable business decisions to live the lifestyle you desire. At Tap the Potential, we know you're longing to be freed from the constant demands of your business. You need a business that supports your life. And the problem is your business is taking over your life, leaving you frustrated and discouraged. We get it. At Tap the Potential, we believe work supports life, not the other way around. We understand you're paying a team, and most likely you're still having to do it all. There should be accountability. It should not be this hard, which is why, through our proprietary coaching system, we help thousands of business owners like you have more time for what's important to them and grow profit by 300 to 800%. Here's how we do it. Start by taking our assessment at tapthepotential.com/assessment. You'll get an overview of your current quality of life as it relates to your business and next steps needed in your business to improve your quality of life while strengthening your business. Next, meet with our success team lead to debrief your results. Then, join our Better Business, Better Life program. By the end of your first year with us, you will have more time for what matters to you and more money in your bank account than you've ever had before. So, if you're ready to take your life back, the next step is to take our assessment at tapthepotential.com/assessment. Profit Designers, today we have Steve Bousquet back with us. He has been a popular guest on the Profit by Design podcast. I'm bringing him back on today to have a discussion with him about how he has grown his team from 12 team members to 27 team members in just the last few years, using strategies taught in How to Hire the Best. Steve Bousquet describes himself as a blue-collar executive. He founded S&B Lawn and Garden Care in 1983 while in high school. Graduating from college with a BA in economics, Steve continued operating his landscape company with the new name American Landscape Service. Steve added lawn science to the company in 1991 to form American Landscape and Lawn Science. Steve's going to share his story today, his highs and lows when it comes to building a team, and how he has had to grow personally in order to grow his team. I believe his story is really going to inspire you and give you some of your own aha moments with respect to attracting and retaining the A players that you need in your business so that you can take your life back from your business. So with that, let's join my conversation with Steve. Profit Designers, at Tap the Potential, we are on a mission right now to be a positive force in social media during trying times for all of us entrepreneurs. In that regard, I would love it if you could help us out. We really want to get behind any of you who are doing good things in your communities, showing up and leading with love. If you are doing something to keep your team together during this time and you're sharing it in social media, or you come across another entrepreneur who is being a gift from their gift in some way that you notice, please use the hashtags Lead with Love and Be a Gift. Our team at Tap the Potential is on the lookout in social media for those hashtags, and we will be reposting those social media posts from the Tap the Potential social media. Let's all lead with love, be a gift, and shine bright during these trying times. So Steve, welcome back to the Profit by Design podcast.
Thank you very much. I am thrilled to be here.
Yes, I am honored to have you joining us again with the launch of How to Hire the Best, the Entrepreneur's Ultimate Guide to Attracting Top Performing Team Members. As we're going through ramping up for the book launch and getting the book out there, we are inviting people who are featured in the book to come onto the podcast and give some of the backstory of the business and the successes that you've had around, for you in particular, building such a great team, a very strong team, people who are very loyal to your company. You have people who've been with you for years and who've really grown with your company. And, just as we were starting to record the podcast, you said, I really don't know exactly what I'm doing that makes it all work. And my sense is that you're doing a lot of the right things, and it's the combination and the culmination of all those things coming together, and you do everything so intentionally. So by way of backstory, I know people who've listened to the Profit by Design podcast have heard some of your story because you've been on multiple times. We've actually had one of your team members on in one of the early episodes. And I think it's helpful, though, for our listeners to get a sense of your journey and where you've come and gotten to the point where you are right now. So share a little bit about your company and your backstory.
Okay, so I'm going to do the condensed version, but the general overall theme. So I started my business in 1983 when I was still in high school. I did it all the way through college and had, just did the best I could. I have a degree in marketing. I also have a degree in economics, developmental economics. And I was in the landscape business. And I really thought that if I had the best equipment, knew the most about soil and plants, I would have a good company. And that helped me grow to a certain point, and that will only get you so far. And it got me, just having that knowledge base got me in trouble. After being in business for, almost 15 years, I ended up deeply in debt and the company was in real trouble. And then, so I had to take another journey down on the numbers side of the business, learning about accounting and financial management and pricing and tracking. And we got the company back on track, and the company started to grow. And then in 2009, 10, 11, we were having good years, but it would be really a good year, then not so good, and then good year. So I had to figure a way to get some consistency in the company, because one of the things, if you want to attract A players to your business, you have to have that consistency with work and finances. And you have to have a consistent place in your marketplace, in your community. So, I read how to just basically vocab on what accounting words and what reports mean. Then I read Simple Numbers by Greg Crabtree, and that really helped me to understand what a balance sheet was used for. I knew what it was, but I did not understand how to use it as a tool. Then I read Profit First and was able to start implementing that. And that is when our company really grew. And you need profits to grow. So we went, from about $1.2 million to $3.5 million in less than 8 years. And it was because we had the profit to do it. We had the team to do it. I learned, so first it was the equipment and learning about soil and plants. Then it's learning about the finances. Then I had to learn, how do I build a team? How do I build a team that works? How do I build a team that shows up every day as adults? And how do I retain that team? How do I strengthen that team, train that team? So the last 4 years, I've really focused more on my personal development, my team's development. And so we kind of have all of the key components to growing and sustaining a profitable business in place.
So you said some things that I think are aha moments, and I want to underscore this. So in your company, American Landscape and Lawn Science, as you started working on the numbers and you were deeply in debt and you recognized, I need to understand better how the money is moving in the business and what to do with the money in the business based on the financials. You said that in order to attract A players, you need consistency. And so getting the profit into the company and guaranteeing that you can make payroll for people and that the team can grow from there is really important. In our Better Business, Better Life program, we go through the Tap the Potential solution with our clients. And the first part of that solution is profit first, and we don't introduce hiring A players until steps 4 and 5 of the Tap the Potential solution. And this really gets at what you're sharing here, is that the consistency is very important for attracting A players. And I hear that from the place of consistency for the business owner, because you had to first learn the technical side of the business, and you did a deep dive into that, and then you did a deep dive into the money of the business. And you came to that because there was a lot of stress because of the debt in the company.
Right.
That was not a good place to be.
That is not a good place to be. It's not a good place to be for the company, it was not a good place for my family. It was not a good place for me. So that in 2001, we were about $250,000 in debt, and I'm not even talking about truck payments or equipment payments. It was just unleveraged debt. And it took me about 7 years of working 7 days a week during the landscape season to pay that off. And I'm not against leverage debt for equipment and trucks, because I'm, learning financially, you don't take your money and invest it in depreciating assets. You let the customers and the work pay for those assets. They're doing the work for the customers. But it was a lot of stress on my family and my wife and my kids, me working that much, and I couldn't grow the business. And it just felt like there was no way out. And I hired a coach consultant in 2001 that helped me tremendously to get back on my feet and figure out the strategy and get in the right direction. But, it only got me to a certain point. And then, I kind of had to find the next level. And that was the next level of financial education.
Yeah. And so when you're in that place where you're working constantly, and there's stress in your family, you're not sleeping well at night, you're worried about the debt, we don't have the energy at that point to focus on building a team. And it's really, and I want our profit designers to understand this concept, that if we're trying to hire A players and we think that hiring is going to save the business, that's not the case. We have to get the profit first in place first in the business, so that the business owner has the time and energy to focus on developing that team. Because if you're hiring and the business isn't profitable, chances are you don't have a solid sweet spot in the business. And then you're hiring team members that are serving clients and customers that may be draining profit from the business, those bad clients and customers. And so when we put profit in place in the business and make sure that there's a system there, and then we focus on the sweet spot of the business, then we're in a much better position to hire those A players and really put attention to what's an A player look like for our team. I know when you started working with me, I think it was about 4 years ago, it was right after How to Hire the Best, the Rural Business Owner's Ultimate Guide to Attracting Top Performing Team Members came out. You came, and I remember you being in the course that I was teaching at that time, and I was very impressed because you'd had team members who'd been with you for a very long time already. And so I could tell that there was something that you were doing right in the business. So I want to know a little bit more about what you're aware of that you were doing with your team members at that time that was working.
So we have people that have been with us for 20 years now, 25 years, 15 years. And we had a small group. It was really a small group of people. So I could pay a lot of personal attention to them, because we only had, 12 employees, and now we have 27, a team of 27. So I think working with them directly and being part of their life, I know how many kids they have, the name of their kids, how old they are. I know their story, where they came from, and really supporting them when they needed something. And life happens to everybody. And I think we just treat everybody like family here. And, in any family, there's going to be someone that needs something more at different times. And as long as that person that needed help at one point shows up for the other people when they need help. And that's really what was going on for all those years. And that's why people didn't leave.
Yeah. And so That's amazing that you have gone from 12 employees to 27 employees over the last 4 years. That's significant growth. And when you're small, it is easy to keep that family atmosphere in place. And by the way, one of the things that I notice whenever I survey our clients' key team members, their A players on their teams, one theme that comes up repeatedly about why they work where they work is because of the family atmosphere. And this is something that we small business owners often don't call out in our advertising for applicants. And it's just kind of one of those intangible perks. But when there is that family atmosphere and that we all take care of each other, we're here for each other, that's what A players want. They want to be a part of something bigger than themselves, and they want to be in an environment that is safe and supported. I know in recent years, you've put significant attention on creating a safe and supported environment. But prior to that, I think you were doing it already for your team members.
Yeah, I put a name to it. So one of the things I noticed at the Breakthrough on the Bayous retreat was how much people got done there at that retreat. I've been to other business conferences and other business retreats, and the same people come back with the same issues every year, and nothing was getting accomplished. And, I saw a lot of breakthroughs on the Breakthrough at the Bayou, and couldn't exactly explain what it was. And then I've, had an epiphany. It was like, because everybody was safe and supported. It was like, hey, I'm struggling with this. And people would be like, it's okay. So let's work together and figure out how to solve it. And it was okay to share your vulnerabilities and your confusions and your struggles. So I implemented a safe and supported culture. We had it. I just kind of named it in my company, Safe and Supported. And that's, in our one-on-ones, which we'll talk about, that's the final question, how safe and supported people feel. And when I originally rolled it out, some of my team members were like, oh, this is going to be kumbaya. And this is, it's not. It's severe. It's accountability. And it's like, you have enough time, resources, skills, people? Do you have the tools to succeed here? Is everyone else in the company showing up to support that? So we don't get any pushback on that. I think people really embrace it strongly.
So just to underscore how important what you just said is, there's a Harvard study, and I share this in the How to Hire the Best book, Harvard study of 200 companies that shows that over 10 to 11 years, companies that create a strong culture, and safe and supported is the foundation of strong culture, have 756% more net income than companies that don't.
Absolutely. They're just so much more productive because the people want to be here. And when people want to be where they work, the production is so much higher. It's just, the difference between the level of production that we get here compared to the industry average, we're always 150% higher in our production rates than the industry standards. And, we're not out there driving our people, they're driving themselves.
Yes, and A players are internally driven, and that's the key, is you've hired A players. The other piece, though, that we often don't pay enough attention to is when people are not safe and supported, when they're missing tools, when they're missing equipment, when they don't feel their other team members support what they're accountable for. There's a lot of distraction at work and frustration, and that drains our energy. When that is not there, that's how we're able to have these higher levels of productivity. The other piece, though, is that when you have a safe and supported culture, people don't want to leave. So you have really high retention. So you're not dealing with that revolving door of turnover that's so costly in a business. Payroll usually is the biggest expense in the business. And when you lose people after 6 months or 4 months on the job, or a year and a half in, and then you're having to go out and hire again and train again, that's a lot of money and time resources that are getting pulled towards the turnover in the business. And when you don't have turnover, that money becomes profit.
Right. And then and the profit just supports the growth. Yeah, turnover is so expensive. I think in train a landscape foreman, before he's up to 100%, it's between $60,000 and $100,000.
Wow.
Lost productivity until he gets up there. So if you're doing that every other year, there's all of your profit. It's just gone. Every year it's already gone. So yeah, people, we pay well, we take care of our employees, but it actually ends up costing less because they're so productive.
So let's talk about we pay well and we take really good care of our employees, because that's a very big deal. One simple practice that you've implemented that I hear you repeatedly encouraging our business owners at Tap the Potential to utilize is the one-to-one meeting. Why are you such an advocate of the one-to-ones?
So originally I was not an advocate of the one-to-one, and I actually had a lot of resistance to it. I'm not a huge meeting person, and now I've become more of a meeting fan. But I did the one-on-ones, and Dr. Sabrina encouraged me to continue with it. And so the impact, was a little uncomfortable and awkward at first, which we worked through that. But the impact on the one-on-ones, people just share stuff about their life. They share stuff about their work. They share stuff about their dreams, their goals. And, no one they've never worked at a place that has done that before. And it's not a review. Your raises are not based on that. There's no judgment. It's really a place where we can have a discussion and find out how we can support you, how you can show up as the best you at work, and not worry about, if you come to work worried about not being supported, the stress is it's too much to be productive. So I have been encouraging many people, and the emails I get from the people I've been encouraging to do this with the stories that they're sharing about their team members are like, wow, I've done this 3 times, and these are some of the stories I want to share. Whether they needed to get counseling for anxiety or some type of addiction, or they started saving to buy a house, or they started to save to buy a better car for their kids, or they just moved to a better apartment. These people have lives, and you're going to have employees that have all kinds of challenges. It doesn't mean that they're not A players. A players have challenges too. They want to work through it. Not everybody has the perfect family. I don't actually know who has the perfect family. And, so work can become part of their family. It does become part of their family.
So what would you say to a business owner who's listening to you talk about this and say, but I don't want to get involved in my employees' personal lives?
You're already involved. The second you hire someone, it's not like buying a machine. The second you hire a person, you are now involved in their personal life. There's very little difference between someone's personal life and their work life. When, back in the industrial age, I guess you would have an employee show up and just work on a production line. Even then it mattered. I mean, Ford figured out it mattered. If he paid more, he would get better employees. So I think you're already in their personal life, and you can choose, obviously, how much you want to be involved. I don't hang out with them outside of work. I don't go out for drinks with them. But if they're having a challenge, and some of the challenges could be as simple as, hey, my engine blew in my car. Is there any way you can help me? I need a ride back and forth to work. Or if people need new tires. I mean, tires can be $1,000 on a car, brand new, tires. So if they don't have that money, maybe you figure out a way to help them get the tires. And it's not giving them the money. It's either coaching them on how to pay for it by saving up for it. Or, there's so many different things with kids. And we don't want people missing games and plays and events and student teacher conferences because we can't move their schedule around for a couple hours. We don't want that.
Yeah. And, the thing about A players is they are so eager to show up and do a good job. Oftentimes they won't necessarily bring up when they're having challenges. They won't say, hey, my son has a parent teacher conference and I really need to be there, because they know they're supposed to be at work. And so if you're not having the one-to-one conversations, they're just holding that inside and they're balancing it and adjusting it. It never shows up at work. And that on the surface, that may sound like, well, that's a good thing because it makes everything easy on the team. It doesn't cause any disruption for our team. But over time, that takes a big toll in their family and in their personal lives, and it starts to eat away at them. And so it starts to slowly drain their energy for how they show up. And just making the simple accommodations, let's adjust schedules so you can get to this student teacher conference or this piano recital or whatever is important to you, builds the emotional bank account with that team member, and it increases their loyalty. And it's that feeling of you're supporting them, what's important to them, and in turn, they want to support you in achieving your vision. And that gets that teamwork going. And all of that happens because one-to-ones are in place, because it creates a feeling of safety. I have a place where I can bring this up. There's a channel of communication that allows that to come into the conversation.
And the other side of that is it's just not that they need stuff all the time, and they don't. They can share their wins. They can share their successes in these one-on-ones, and they're going to share that, hey, I have this much saved up to buy my first house, or I'm buying this new car. If you look out in our parking lot, my team doesn't drive fancy cars, but they're not driving beater cars either. They're getting to work safely, and they can make it to work every day. So the other part of that buy-in is now I have the family's buy-in, the wife, the kids, because I'm not just taking care of the person that shows up to work here. I'm taking care of everybody they support. So the daughter knows that dad's not going to miss that horse show because of work. And so when he has to go to work, the daughter supports him. And the wife knows that, she's going to be driving around on safe tires in the winter.
Yes.
Because of where the husband works,
That piece right there is huge, because imagine you're in the landscape business. You guys have a season, and it is a very intense season when it kicks in. So how many hours a week are you guys working in the height of the season?
They're going to be working between 55 and 60 hours a week at peak.
So, and they do that for how many weeks in the peak?
That peak is probably 25 weeks, 26 weeks. It's a lot. It's a long season. Half the year almost. Yeah.
Half the year. They're working very, very hard. So imagine a guy working that hard and then coming home to a spouse who says, oh, they kept you late again. Oh my gosh. And you missed Johnny's ball game, and you missed the piano recital, and I can't count on you for anything. So now you have an A player who's getting emotionally beat up at home because of the long hours, and the family does not feel the buy-in to the company. You've totally reversed that process because you're taking care of your team members. You're tuning into what their whole life is and how to support them in their whole life. And in turn, spouses and kids are like, yes, Dad, you work at with this really cool place, and we're so happy. And they want their significant other, their dad, their mom, going to work and being a part of that, because it does have a positive impact on the family.
Absolutely. Yeah. Your family is so important. And I think when we try to separate work from where we work from our family, it's almost impossible, and so if they're going to work 55 or 60 hours a week, if they need to get out early next Thursday to do something for their kid, we arrange that, we make it happen, and everyone supports that here. And it's interesting, if we have a team member who doesn't get that and says, oh, look at that, he gets to go out whenever he wants, or that person was either a bad hire right up front, or they will not last here very long.
They have a different value.
Because that person who's just said that is going to need to go take their daughter to the doctor and their son to someplace. And when they need that, they will support that. So it's really in our immutable laws, give and take is a big part of working in my company.
Yeah. Well, and what I also hear, though, is you're very sensitive to work supports life, not the other way around. And you're looking at making sure that your team members, when they're working hard, that they have a good quality of life. And it's not all about just work for the company.
Yeah. And quality of life means different things to different people. And that's what the one-on-ones reveal. And that shows how we can support them.
Yeah. So, as someone who gets to talk to a lot of business owners and the A players on their teams, one theme that comes up fairly consistently from those A players when we have new business owners who are starting, or they're new clients to us, they're not new business owners, but new clients to the Better Business, Better Life program at Tap the Potential. One of the themes that the A players will say is, here, a need that we have in this business is better communication. Our communication is not good. We have a great leader, very invested in our success and really cares. That's a common theme. And communication is a big problem in the business. And over the years, one of the fastest ways that I've seen to fix that problem fast is to get the business owner doing one-to-ones, because that creates a ready channel of communication and a place for team members to come to the business owner and say, this isn't working, or I need help with this, or I'm stuck here and I don't know what to do. And there's so much, once you have a team that's bigger than 2 or 3 people, there's so much that goes on a daily basis in the business that the business owner doesn't know about. And if the one-to-ones aren't happening, you never hear about those things.
Right. So I've noticed if we don't stick to our one-on-one schedule and we skip a one-on-one here and there, we start to see the results of that. It shows up in just kind of the lack of communication. People wonder what's going on. And other business owners that I've talked to, they'll say, I have these set of challenges with my team. And I'll ask them, well, how are your one-on-ones going? And they have stopped them. So now all of a sudden they have problems with long-term employees. What's interesting, it most always goes back to some family issue or some family situation. And they don't know that they're missing their one-on-ones. And we have the same thing. We missed during COVID, we had people working from home. We had one-on-ones that were not going on. And as the created kind of all kinds of talk in the office, you were talking about people and not to people. And as soon as you start talking about people and not to the person, that's really a bad sign. So we ramped up the one-on-ones back again, and they're back on track. And, 95% of those issues have gone away. Doing one-on-ones is not going to make everything perfect. You're still going to have other situations, but boy, does it put you down the right track.
So you have 27 team members. Are you doing 27 one-to-ones every week, Steve?
So the office manager does all her direct reports. So she meets with all the people that she supervises. The landscape manager does the one-on-ones with the people that he supervises. And then I do the one-on-ones with my executive team. So my lawn care, landscape, and office manager. And then I also do one-on-ones with my lawn techs, my lawn technicians. So I still do half the company, the one-on-ones, which is fine. I'm training other people to do those when I'm not here. But I think it's super important for the guys when I do the one-on-ones. They take about 15 or 20 minutes. And it's, it's kind of like you have to do maintenance on every single piece of equipment that I own. You have to grease it, change the oil, change the filter, change the belts, and pay attention to it, and it will last longer and perform. But we don't do that. I was not doing that with my people before. I was not understanding that my team needs maintenance. They need that support. So, it was now that I'm doing that, it shows up. It shows up in a really unique way when they talk about how their work here influences their life and how they're bringing some developmental skills that they've learned here into their home life and into their relationships. And it just shows up in big ways.
One of my favorite outcomes of our leadership boot camp is because you've had team members that have gone through over the years. We've had multiple American Landscape and Lawn Science team members come through, and I hear them taking the choice map to their families, sharing what they're learning about the people map with their families, and just the impact of their learning improved communication skills in leadership boot camp. And that's great for them at work. And it's really cool when I hear this has changed how I talk to my husband, or this has changed our relationship with our family at home. And I've heard your team members doing that. They're really incorporating all the personal development that you're giving them as part of growing the team. They're taking it into their home lives. And that's, again, that just points to a positive impact on the family is going to come back and have a greater and greater impact in the workplace.
Yeah, they share stories frequently with me about, when I took the leadership boot camp and then the coach approach and, change your questions, change your life, and how it impacts them in their relationships with their kids and their spouses and even their parents. It's so interesting. That's what I mean, like work and home, work and private life is almost impossible to separate completely. I mean, you can go home and you should be who you are at home, but you still have to communicate at home. You still have to manage all those other relationships that you have going on in your community.
Yes. So I want to point out something that you said early in the conversation, and that was that not only did you have to learn about the finances in the company, but you also undertook your own personal development. And I really hear this strong theme that because you started working so much on yourself as a leader and as a human being, you have now brought these tools, these strategies, these concepts to your team members, and they're taking it into their families. So that personal development that you undertook really was a switch that flipped in the company and for your team. And it's had this trickle through effect.
Right. So I've always been into personal development, but, it's interesting how I just celebrated my 56th birthday. I was really way more focused on other things like sales and marketing and that will only get you so far. And then the finances. And, I've been focusing more on the relationship development, my own, like just feelings and emotions, and recognizing that it's okay to have these different emotions and not suppress stuff. Like, be angry for 5 minutes, get over it, make a strategy, move on, and acknowledging vulnerability. I don't know this, and it's okay, and ask for help or coaching. The Clifton Strengths Finder has been a huge part of my life, my relationships, my team. It's not a test, it's an assessment. So many of my close friends have taken the assessment. My wife has taken this assessment. Spouses of my team have taken the assessment. So it's really eye-opening. It's like, wow, these are all your strengths. You're such an awesome person. Look at all that you're capable of doing, instead of like focusing on what they can't do or what they lack. And that's been a huge part of, so in my company before, we had a lot of projects that were, I call them silos. I would assign them to one person. The person would struggle. They could do 80% really well. And now we focus on teams, and we kind of look at that project and say, what strengths does this project need? And then we match up the two team members. So stuff gets done literally 5 times faster, and it will be 100% complete. Because one person can carry it 80%, and the other person finishes or helps with the 20%. So that's been huge. But personal development I've had people say to me, you are not even the same person that I met 4 or 5 years ago. So I take that as a compliment. It's just constant. I always feel like I'm never there. And I've said this before, you're never there. There's not a there to get to. You just have to keep on working on yourself.
Yeah. And, one of our favorite stories that we share at the retreat is your first time coming to the retreat, and you got off the bus. And back before COVID, when we could still hug, we hugged all of our participants as they were coming in. And Steve was brand new to us. And I went to go hug you, and you just kind of like stiffened up, like, I don't know what to do with this. I don't know her, and she wants to hug me. And then you started, as you were at the retreat, you really started settling in and getting to know everyone. And I really saw you as a person open up. And in my mind, that is part of that turning point that I saw in you, where you really started embracing vulnerability, and that you were here, you were amongst business owners, and you were safe and supported, and you could be yourself.
Yeah, and it's interesting because at the retreat, I remember walking down, I remember watching everybody hug you, and I was thinking, how do I get out of this? Nothing against you. I was not a big hugger. So, I walked out and I stuck my hand out to shake your hand. And I even said it at that retreat, I was confused why people were getting so emotional about business. I was like, well, business is one thing. Why is everybody getting so emotional about it? And now my viewpoint is, if you're not getting emotional about your business, you're not playing 100%. You're not bringing it all to the table for you, your family, or your team, because it should be emotional. This is impacting lives. This is impacting, people buying homes and supporting their children and developing their families and their lives. So, I was looking at it more just from a numbers standpoint, and I was missing the human connection to business. And I was just all about, at that point in my mindset, was that I was about the numbers. And I would have missed out on a lot of amazing things if I had stayed there.
So one of the questions I get asked a lot lately is, with the new How to Hire the Best, the Entrepreneur's Ultimate Guide to Attracting Top Performing Team Members, what's in this book that's different than the first 2 books in the How to Hire the Best series? And what's in this book that's different is my awareness that hiring A players is not just about a set of tactics to attract A players to your team. It is about being the leader that you need to be to have that business that gives you your life back. And so that piece around personal development, the vulnerability, the willingness to work on ourselves, that is a big portion of this How to Hire the Best book, because if you don't have that, you won't keep the A players that you attract to your team. And that personal development piece lays the foundation for a business owner to create a great culture. in the business. So the other component that's in the latest How to Hire the Best book is how to build that great culture. And that's where Steve's story is in there. And we have case studies from our other clients in the Better Business, Better Life program around what they're doing to create culture. Because, and Steve, I'm sure you can relate to this, when you're working 60, 90 hours a week and someone says to you, now you have to put a lot of attention on your team building and culture. Your first thought is, who has time for that? Like, that's so far off my radar. I can't even wrap my head around it. So what do you have to say about that? Because you've been down that path.
Yeah, if you had told me that when I was working 7 days a week, I would have been like, well, I pay them and I expect them to work. And so, I just did what I knew, which was treat people like their family. And that seemed to be an effective method. But when you're focused, when you're thinking, oh my gosh, I have all these bills to pay, I have all these commitments to my customers to pay, and people are telling me I'm supposed to have a balanced life and exercise and meditate and self-care, and when am I supposed to do that? And your wife is saying, hey, or your spouse, we really need a new couch. That thing's like 7 years old. And you go, how much is a new couch? I don't even know. It's like $1,000 to $2,000. Or you're like, oh my gosh, that's so much money. Do you know how much I'm struggling? So it's a very lonely place when you're in that place mentally. You cannot think about developing a team. You already have a culture, no matter what you're doing in your business. It's already there. So whether or not it's a culture that your team needs or you meant to be intentional about. So I think the first step is just creating an intention of creating a culture that you want. That would be the first step. Just writing out, I'm going to be intentional about creating a culture, and then just start with one thing that is meaningful to you. Because if it's not meaningful to you, you can never put it into your culture. It has to come from your heart, your very being, because that's the only honest way you can show up every day.
Well, and you're speaking to creating a vision of what you want, a vision of the culture that you want to create and how you want people at work to experience coming to work every day. That is the very first step. And I talk about that in the How to Hire the Best book. That's another new piece in there, is the importance of being intentional and creating that vision of what we're trying to create. Because it's not, if we're just doing, and we're not thinking about where we're headed and why are we doing this, we're going to lose our motivation. We do. We fall out of love with our businesses. We start to resent them and they take over our lives. And so I second what you said, that really the first piece is to think about, what do I want to create here? What do I want this culture to look like? Not only for the team, but for me as well. How do I want to experience coming to work every day?
Yeah. And you don't have to live with the culture you have. If it's not a healthy one, you can change it. And, it goes back, you can change it. Then you have to have a first follower in your company that supports that. Then they'll show other people in the company. Because in my own company, I can only talk to and affect so many people. And I need my first followers to go out and make that connection and show them what the culture is like here and what it's going to remain.
So you're speaking to Derek Sivers' video on how to create a movement. He gave a TED Talk on that. And that is one of my favorite leadership videos. We show it during the first week of Leadership Boot Camp. And I talk to the A players in our clients' businesses and I say, this is what the business owner feels like. They feel like they're the lone nut out there dancing, trying to get other people to follow and do what they're supposed to do in the company. And everyone else is just standing around looking at them like, look at that guy out there, he's dancing. And when you watch this video, you see that there's a first follower who gets up and starts dancing with the lone nut. And then when the first follower starts dancing, he starts calling out to others in the audience and they start coming up, and the first follower teaches them how to dance and do the movements and how to lead. And so the first guy, the lone nut, is the one who gets all the credit, but it's actually the first follower who created that movement and got things going. And that, we've been talking, Stacy and I have had some conversations here on the podcast recently about flipping the switch. How do you get team members to start taking responsibility and making decisions in the business? It's all about getting those first followers in place in the business who understand what you're up to, understand your vision, buy into the immutable laws. And once that's happening, they can take responsibility for things and take things off your plate. You've had that happen in your business. You've been able to take multiple 4-week vacations over the years because that's gone on. So as we get ready to close out here, I think it would be really interesting to hear a little bit about how you've gotten that switch to flip in your company.
So back to that first leader, first follower video, one of the components of it is, as a leader, you have to be easy to follow. And then you have to treat your first followers like equals. And when I read that, he, was in Mike McAllister's book, Surge, was it the book?
I don't remember which one.
Yeah, it was in one of Mike's book, and I watched the video, and I really beat myself up over that video because I looked back at all the opportunities I had missed by not embracing my first followers as equals. And I literally went back in certain situations in my life and said, oh, I really blew that opportunity. There was a chance. So what I did was I watched that video probably 30 times. I took notes and wrote down scenarios where I could implement it and where I hadn't implemented it. So the first thing I did was came back and I started treating all my first followers like equals. And that was really the first step towards that. And then starting, with the 4 vacations, when they started showing up, because I was treating them as equals and they were behaving like that, then I was able to start planning the 4-week vacation, which really the 4-week vacation is another way of saying get your business to run for a month without you being there. You can stay at home. You can go on vacation. You can go, I went and visited 10 businesses across the country on my 4-week vacation. I don't have contact with the company. I wasn't influencing them. They had to do everything on their own. So what happened was, and I kind of say this with kidding, that the grown-ups showed up.
Yes.
So they're, if I'm here every day and watching and telling them what to do, they behave like children because I'm treating them. If I treat them like adults and let them make decisions, let them make mistakes, and let them brush themselves off and get back up again and try again, they behave like that. So, I tell people I have a company of adults. I could leave for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, and they can run everything. And this year I have, taken myself completely out of the day-to-day operations and sales of the business. There's still lots to do in a business when you're not focusing on the day-to-day, but it's because they showed up. I gave them the opportunity by getting out of their way. And when I was gone, things happened. They would have happened whether I was here or not. They took care of them. Sometimes they had better solutions than I would have. Way better solutions, quicker. And so I think, what happened with that though also was the people that directly report to those, my supervisors, my leaders, they started seeing that they had to step up. So it was really a chain reaction throughout the whole company.
And all of that, tying it back to it's your personal development. You had to do the work on yourself to get comfortable with leaving and getting out of the way to let your team members grow up and step up.
Yeah, you have to get out of the way. One of the things that when we first met that really struck me, and I shared it with some other people, and I had never thought about it, was our codependency that we have in our business. And I was like, I am so codependent on my business. I want my business to need me so badly, and it does all the time. I was the constant need. I had to be involved in everything. And when I shared that with other people, they would look at me and I could see them really giving it some deep thought. And they would say, I am so codependent on my business because it always needs us. We're always the hero. And it's the place we can go to be the hero. It's our safe place. We don't have to deal with our spouse, our kids. We can go deal with the work. And even if we complain about it, we created it. It's our world. So, it's, you have to really own that. And that's part of the vulnerability. Yes, I was codependent on my business because it always needed me. So, and once I can get over that, and last year I shared with you, I really broke up with my business last year in the sense of I stopped working weekends. I stopped, me and my wife used to come to the office on Sundays, and my wife would clean the office for 20 years. I finally hired a cleaning company. And we could afford the cleaning company. It was just something that we had gotten routine. But so, outside of the very, very peak time of the year, I don't work weekends at all, which is, you're talking 37 years of working weekends before I finally stopped. So, and guess what? My business had a record year this year, record sales, record profit. We didn't lose customers because Steve wasn't working Saturdays.
Yeah. But we tell ourselves that if we stop these things that we do, something is going to fall apart, something's going to break in the business. And really, that's that codependency that you're speaking to. You have taken your life back from your business when you broke up with your business. And the fact that the business is stronger, healthier, you're stronger and healthier. And one of the pieces that I just want to acknowledge is when we're codependent on our business and we can't imagine taking a vacation and not checking in or not checking in over the weekend. Really, what's going on there is we don't have a life away from work. We have neglected ourselves and our lives away from work. And it's scary to look at that. And when we decide, you know what, I'm going to just take 3 days off and I'm not going to check in, now all of a sudden we're checking in with ourselves. And sometimes we're not liking what we're seeing. So it takes tremendous courage to break up with our businesses because we're taking our lives back and we're checking back in with ourselves and our family and people and relationships that have been neglected. So I really appreciate you speaking to that here and speaking so honestly and vulnerably about that.
Yeah, it was impactful. I even had a breakup song, one of Pink's songs. I had a breakup song and everything. And it just, I think it's made my relationship with my business much stronger, actually, more focused. And yeah, it just makes my team better because I'm not here all the time. And it just makes everything better.
Yeah. So Steve, as we wrap up, I want to share with our profit designers that the How to Hire the Best, the Entrepreneur's Ultimate Guide to Attracting Top Performing Team Members is going to be out November 18th. You can go to howtohirethebest.com to find out how to purchase the book and how to become an ambassador. And when you're an ambassador for the book, what you're really doing is saying, I want to support other entrepreneurs in taking their lives back from their businesses. And so we would love to have more profit designers out there helping us spread that message that it absolutely can be done. Steve is here sharing that story today with us so generously to inspire those of you out there who are in that place of struggle and you're working 70, 90 hours a week and wondering, can it ever really be different? And it's my highest intention that Steve here sharing his story with you shows you, yes, it absolutely can be different. So Steve, I really appreciate you coming and sharing like this.
You're very welcome. It is my pleasure and honor to do that. I know the entrepreneurial struggle. I know the pain and work and dedication that it takes. And any message I can ever spread or tools I can share that makes people's lives more enriched and better and less painful and less of a struggle, I'll be there 100%.
That's awesome. Appreciate that. If your business is taking over your life and you're ready to take your life back, Tap the Potential's Better Business, Better Life program could be just what you're looking for. By the end of your first year in our program, you will have more time for what matters to you and more money in your bank account than ever. Get started. Take our assessment at tapthepotential.com/assessment. Thank you for spending time with us today. Join our conversation in the Profit by Design podcast Facebook group. Share your thoughts on today's episode, ask us questions, and let us know what you want to hear about next. Visit our website at profitbydesignpodcast.com to access resources from our sponsors and tools we've created for you. Subscribe to the show on whatever platform you're listening to right now. There's a subscribe button right there. Go ahead and hit it so that you always get a notification when we release a new episode. And finally, share our podcast with a friend if you know a friend who would enjoy it. Thanks again for listening. This is real life business. Keep your chin up, keep moving forward. You got this.